Hare Krishna. The festival was organized by Prabhupada in such a way to satisfy everyone, not only the devotees, but also the outsiders. So some outsiders requested, you have a long festival. So Prabhupada acceded to that, and it was a very long festival here. 2 weeks of celebrations. The beginning, first 3 days, because you see, everything, as usual, was completely last minute. As soon as something was finished, then the doors opened and we had to start. So the same with the temple. Everything very last minute. We came a little early from Mayapur because all the devotees had gone to Hyderabad, and we thought we had about 13 days to get the altars ready, the kitchen ready, everything ready, you know. And in those days, we had Mangal Artik in Prabhupada's main room because there was no temple open yet. So, and we, because there was nowhere for the devotees to live, we lived in a dharamshala in Loy Bazaar and would walk from Loy Bazaar from Mangal Artik every morning. So one morning, after Mangal Artik, Prabhupada had sent Bhavananda to be the director of the festival. He makes an announcement that I just got a telegram from Srila Prabhupada and he's arriving tonight at 7 o'clock. So what we thought we had 2 weeks to do had to be done in 1 day. And you never saw such coordination, especially in Isckon, and you never will see such coordination in your whole eternity. Because Bhavananda was the director, he had everybody moving. All their lordships were living in Prabhupada's house. The kitchen wasn't set up. Nothing was ready. And within 1 day, he had all the altars completely cleaned. He had 4 devotees carry each deity onto the altars. He had the kitchen set up. Then the pujaris came from outside. Now, how they came was very interesting. When Prabhupada arrived, everything was ready for him. But then Prabhupada had to decide as soon as he came here, because there was going to be a 3-day installation program, not just 1 day. He had to decide who were going to be the purohits to perform it. And one group, Yashodanandan had brought from South India, and one group, Yashamati Nandan had brought locally, because Yashamati Nandan is a Joshi, a Brahmin, so he brought Shripad Bhimsen Joshi. So Prabhupada wanted to test the 2. The first one from South India, they made their terms and agreement, how much money they wanted, everything, and then Prabhupada invited them to take prasadam. They refused. So then Prabhupada said, they will not take prasadam from us. That means after they perform the yajna, they will claim that we are not qualified to do the worship, only they can do the worship, and then they'll take all the donations. So he rejected them. Then Bhimsen Joshi came, a local, and Prabhupada was very happy that he was local because his whole purpose of doing this ceremony was to please the local Brahmins. So Bhimsen Joshi, he agreed to everything, and then Prabhupada offered him prasadam. He took prasadam, and Prabhupada said, yes, this is our man, and they started. And they set up everything. So even Prabhupada's house wasn't completed in those days. There was no kitchen. I was cooking in what was going to be the deity kitchen, and then suddenly one day, all these Brahmins come in with all their paraphernalia, and it was all over then. We didn't know where to go, we didn't know what to do, so Shruti Kirti, he asked Prabhupada what to do, so there was a little hole in the wall. We started cooking for Prabhupada there because they had to set up, Prabhupada wanted 10 plates. If you count, there's 4 plus 2 plus 4. Every lordship had to have their own plate. And the standard that Prabhupada made for the cooking, you just wouldn't believe it. At nighttime, 8 puris, 2 different types of pakoras, samosas. I mean, it was just fantastic. Except there were no devotees to cook everything. It was the only thing missing. Because no one wanted to stay here. Now it's April 10th. So this is, April 20th was the grand opening. It's hot now. It was 45 degrees 2 days ago. You can imagine even 10 days from now. So everyone was just waiting to leave. Prabhupada wanted everyone to come here, but it was very hot. They couldn't even find a head pujari. The GBC, it was Bhagavan at the time, he was assigned to find a head pujari. This was while the installation ceremony was going on. They didn't have a head pujari yet. So he asked Govardhan from Detroit. And Govardhan, he said, no, I'm not qualified to stay in Vrindavan. You better find somebody else. So then he asked Nartamananda. Nartamananda, he was the head pujari in Paris. Because very few men did pujari work at that time. They were all out on Sankirtan, and the women did all the pujari work. But Nartamananda was thinking, this is a good opportunity for me. I'll learn how to do the worship as they actually do in Vrindavan. He accepted it. So, okay, we had head pujari. Now we needed pujaris. They made announcements each morning. If anyone has any experience in pujari work, please see Nartamananda. So, for the grand opening, it was so exciting. The devotees would stand around and watch all of these performances, and Prabhupada was the yagyaman. He had to be there every day, very sober, going through all of the rituals as was explained. And slowly, the yajna started coming forward to the last day, the 20th, this Ramnavmi day. And that was the day that their lordships were dressed in white silk. They had white bandages around their eyes, and on top of their eyes was wax. So the Purohit, he sent in a message to Prabhupada that in order to take the wax off of the eyes, we need a piece of gold. And we need some jewels for the yajna. So Prabhupada, he said, I've tolerated 3 days of ceremonies. I've done everything to satisfy the locals, but no gold. So they had to do without gold. And when they took the wax off of the eyes of all their lordships, Prabhupada wouldn't let us say the deities. He didn't allow us to say the deities. So he had to say their names. So when the wax was taken off, brought into the temple was a calf and a young girl. It was the first thing that everyone got to see. And then they were carried onto the altar. And it took some time then, because just like now we have 11 o'clock the offering, and then 12 o'clock the arti. So they had to dress everybody. They had to do the Maha offering. There were special cooks that had come from America. There was Gopati, there was Bojadev, there was Apurva, there was Shankadas. All the greatest cooks from America were there. Were you there? He was one of the greatest cooks. That we weren't there. He would have been in the kitchen if you were here. So they were all cooking up a storm, and Pishima was there with her crew cooking. And by the time 11 o'clock came, there were over 108 preparations. And they had these plates, the big plates, plus they had, just like we do now, they had to put everything everywhere. Even while the offering was going on, they were still bringing in things. Meanwhile, Prabhupada out here, he was sitting here with the governor and other elite guests from Mathura who came with the governor. They started giving lectures, and just to prove that we're devotees and we accept the culture of India, Prabhupada had Yashodamantinandan speak in Hindi, and then he had Achyutananda Swami speak in Hindi. So after Achyutananda Swami spoke, Prabhupada, he apologized. he said, Jaise Guru Vaise Chele. Because Prabhupada would also, when he spoke Hindi, it was difficult for him because he was Bengali. Yeah, he said, just as the guru is, so the disciple is. Because so finally, it was time for the arti. Prabhupada went in. He had a full dress, kurta, everything. He offered his obeisances in front of the 3 altars. And then he made sure he had Brahmananda stand at the curtain to make sure nobody would open that curtain. Prabhupada wanted to be the person to open the curtain. So Prabhupada threw open the curtain and started that arti. And we know the stories because we hear them on the DVDs about everyone was crushed there, and Dinabandhu will tell his story about he was lifted off of the ground and just moved from the table. He started to panic. And everyone was getting crushed here and there and everywhere. And then, not only did Prabhupada do the arti, but after the arti, he came out of the altar, and he stood right there. You can look in the pictures. Then Shruti got in the picture there. So he started to lecture right on the altar. And what he lectured was, he said, this is an international temple. It's for everyone. You all should worship Krishna together. He said, all of this nonsense of CIA, do you think the Americans are so stupid that they're going to become Vaishnavas just to enter into India? He just spoke so freely and so openly that you all come and worship here. The foreigners, the Indians, the locals, everyone should come and worship Krishna and Balram together in this temple. This temple is for everyone. And then right after that, they had the Jarasandha play here. And then Prabhupada, he had assigned Smarahari. He was our temple commander at the time. And he told Smarahari who to contact, which halwai, exactly what to make, how much quantity. Prabhupada was going to feed 6,000 people, full prasadam, 2 sabjis, puri, laddu, and kachori, and samosa. That was for the masses. And for the class, Prabhupada added on rasgulla and kheer. That was another 2,000, 1,000 people. So the people were already lining up, and they were lining up all the way to the street. I mean, anywhere there was space, they were making lines. And then Prabhupada had arranged for the Dandi Ashram, which was empty at that time. Full Dandi Ashram was complete with devotees and the locals. And Yashodamantinandan was put in charge of the serving. He had hundreds of devotees helping him serve all these people. And Prabhupada, he and the governor, they went through all the rows to make sure everyone was satisfied. Prabhupada, the governor, first they went here, then they went there, and then finally Prabhupada brought the governor into what's now our Prabhupada library. It was an empty room then with sofas, and he fed the governor specially made South Indian prasadam. And before he fed him, the guards had to taste test everything and make sure we weren't trying to poison him. So he was pleased, and then finally, that's why I called Shruti Kirti, because I was running back and forth. Prabhupada never broke his schedule. Never. It didn't matter how important anything was. I'm running. I saw Prabhupada here, I saw Prabhupada there, but he wasn't coming to take his prasadam. So finally, at 3:30, after everyone had eaten and Prabhupada had fasted the whole day, 3:30, Prabhupada came in and took his prasadam. And then at 4:30, everything started again. the temple opened, and then Prabhupada had full stream of guests coming all night long. All of the Goswamis came and he congratulated him. You can see the pictures, he's just beaming with joy. And then when that was all over at night, we're just talking about this one day now, at night, he had all of his leaders in his room with him. And he was very happy, satisfied for the day, that they had accomplished the grand opening. But he spoke to them, he said, I will spend lakhs of rupees to open temples like this. But what I really want is my books to be published. He said, there are 17 books waiting to be printed. I've lost all my enthusiasm to translate now. I finished the complete Chaitanya Charitamrita and only 3 volumes are printed. I finished the whole 4th canto and nothing is printed. I've already started the 5th canto. So then Rameshwar was there and he said, it happened a little later, but Prabhupada gave Rameshwar 2 months to finish 17 volumes of books. So we thought we had a marathon, but this marathon that came afterwards was much greater. 24 hours around the clock, the devotees worked to fulfill this next marathon that Prabhupada gave. Prabhupada never stopped. He never relaxed. As soon as this temple was finished, he sent Surabi and Gunarnavat to Bombay to start the construction there. So even this festival, it didn't stop. It went on for another week. Prabhupada had special speakers every night. And then finally, on the Purnima, was the Maha Yagya in the courtyard. You can see the pictures. And in those days, it was a marathon initiation. It must have been over 50 devotees. It's not like now when you have 1,000 devotees. But 50 devotees is really big. Because nearly 1,000 devotees had come for that festival. And many devotees were waiting, so they came especially to get initiated. So it was an amazing festival, so many details, and although I couldn't see a single speck of it because I was just in the kitchen, I always wanted to know what happened. So for 3 years, I researched, we interviewed, Dharmaka went all over the world interviewing the devotees who were here, and from that we made a book, and that tells the entire, from Prabhupada's birth up to his entrance into the Samadhi, how he established this temple and how important this temple was for him. So we are so fortunate to be able to even do a speck of service here to assist Srila Prabhupada. We're all part of his transcendental body, working to fulfill all of his desires here. And there's another book, Vrindavan Dham as it is, and that was the instructions Prabhupada gave for this temple. So any of you who are living here and serving here, study these instructions because he gave very details how he wanted the kirtans, how he wanted the cooking, how he wanted the preaching. Everything was given before Prabhupada entered Samadhi. So all of you stay here. He wanted Brijbasis to serve here, but he wanted everybody fully engaged. In those days, we had the rule 8 hours of service. And no Mangalarti, no Prashadam. And it was strict. So if you can keep that standard, you're most welcome to stay and help with all of the instructions, fulfilling the instructions, just like one got fulfilled today, the museum, most beautiful. And you all stay here and serve Srila Prabhupada and help fulfill his instructions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.